Closing arguments are underway in a high-profile and very disturbing murder trial in Ontario. There is a couple accused of killing one of the children in their care after years of alleged abuse. Becky Hamber and Brandy Cooney had been caring for and aiming to adopt two boys, both brothers. In late 2022, first responders found the older brother in a basement bedroom, malnourished, unresponsive, and soaking wet. The 12-year-old was taken to hospital, but doctors could not revive him. Days later, Children's Aid took away the younger brother. The women have both pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder, confinement, assault with a weapon, and failing to provide the necessaries of life. Now, this case has posed big questions about why Children's Aid didn't identify a problem earlier. The alleged abuse had happened over months, but Children's Aid never sat down one-on-one with the child. Irwin Elman is Ontario's former child advocate, now the president of Defence for Children International Canada. Irwin, good day to you.
Hi, David. Thank you for having me.
A lot of the attention in this case has focused on the actions of the two would-be parents. But what have we learned about the failures of Ontario's Children's Aid and the adoption system?
Well, you mentioned one of the crucial things that came up in the trial was that the Children's Aid, again, and I say again because this case is shocking but not surprising, again, didn't really see the child, take the child's views and concerns and situation seriously, and wanted to not just have the child live there, but enable what was happening in that home for years. And it's a systemic problem. Of course, there's issues with how the various workers in Children's Aid did their job, but it's a systemic problem underneath that. We know that Children's Aid heard from, for instance, the school system with concerns and didn't act on those concerns, probably because of what's called confirmation bias in the child protection system we have, where the Children's Aid or child protection system decides on what they think is best, and every piece of information they get either becomes confirming information that builds their theory of what's happening with that child, or they discredit that information if it goes against what they think. Why does that happen? Well, in Ontario, but across the country, it's considered wrong to bring children into care because the life in care, if children have to live in care, is really not a place for them. And rather than fix that problem, we decide to leave children in homes or figure out some kind of permanency placement. There's the issue of not bringing Indigenous children, and this young man was Indigenous, into care, or Black children into care, because we understand the system is systemically racist, and we know that these groups are overrepresented, so there's pressure not to do that. Instead, maybe we leave children in harm's way because we don't want to be seen as racist, which of course is racist in itself.
But Irwin, let me jump in on you, because
financial pressure.
I hear what you're saying, but I am so struck by some of the allegations here. I mean, this boy was purportedly zip-tied to a chair, locked in a basement, and kept in a rubberized suit in his own filth. How does something like that not get detected by the very people who exist to protect children in a home that they had placed him in temporarily?
Well, one of the key pieces of information that was presented by the defense yesterday in their closing argument was that there was an email sent to the worker from these parents who are allegedly murderers that said, yes, we know there's a issue around malnutrition and weight, and we're going to take this young boy to find an eating disorder placement for him to go to, this in one of the hospitals in Ontario. And it sounds like the worker just said, fine, nothing to see here, go ahead. And that, in my opinion, is the way the system is built. not to focus centrally on the child, but to focus on risk and liability. So in this case, the worker is thinking, okay, parents say, no, there's a problem. They say they're going to take the boy to eating disorder clinic. The workers should know that there are no eating disorder resources without huge wait lists in Ontario. That's not going to happen. But the worker just says, okay, you got it. So close the case, close that piece of the file and move on to the next case. That's how our child protection system works. When that happens, the worker can say, well, I'm not liable. I checked it out. The parents said they're going to do this, so okay, move on. And our system is built in risk and liability. David, it's the same system that was created 130 years ago out of the Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Risk and liability, that's how we understand safety. And children we know now, 130 years later, are not dogs, and parents and caregivers do not own children as if they're property. We know that. So, but we still have a system that's based in how we look after and try and make dogs safe. It's not appropriate.
Yeah.
That's an understatement. We need fundamental change in how we understand safety and protect children.
Irwin Elman, we'll need to leave it there, but I want to thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Now, of course, if there is someone you know, particularly if they're a child who needs help in any way, a reminder, Kids Help Phone exists 24/7 at 1-800-668-6868, or you can also text 686868. Of course, if anybody's in immediate danger, as always, call 911.